When you're ready for a real challenge, you're ready for Marble Madness. There are deadly steelies, marble munchers, acid pools, digital waves, vacuum cleaners, catapults, pistons, pounding hammers, killer birds, and they're all after you. Do you have what it takes to reach the silly maze where everything's upside down, or the ultimate maze where even the maze moves? Do you have what it takes, or will Marble Madness make you lose your marbles? Marble Madness. And coming soon, Jordan versus Bird, one-on-one for your Nintendo.
You wouldn't think a game 100% centered on guiding marbles downhill would be a hit, but Marble Madness has quite the fanfare. The game first released in arcades back in 1984, and way back then, even the slightest hint of 3D was eye fodder enough to give anything a try, and nothing said 3D more in 1984 than a bunch of squares slightly turned sideways. It should be noted that Marble Madness was conceived by one of the stonecutters of early video game development, Mark Cerny. If that name sounds familiar, that's because Cerny is connected to many now popular franchises, such as Jak and Daxter, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Ratchet & Clank, and he even produced Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Not to mention, Cerny is credited as a technical producer for Death Stranding. Dude has been around. Marble Madness was originally developed for arcades but was ported to almost everything in existence at the time. What's up with Marble Madness on the NES? In Marble Madness, I suppose you're the marble, or at least you have some remote control of the marble. You guide the marble through obstacle courses while oftentimes fighting or perhaps compensating for gravity. Your goal is to guide the marble to the finish line, and this will require tedious and precise placement of the marble to avoid falling completely off ledges, falling down a level, which smashes your marble to powder, or avoid the random enemies. The enemies include other rogue marbles that bounce into you and knock you off the course, little springing worms that suck up your marble, roving acid pools that melt your marble, and other gimmicky obstacles that only serve to make the course harder for you, as gimmicky obstacles do. The game consists of 6 courses, all with a slightly different color palette but with the same end goal. They're each timed, and the time you have at your disposal depends on how well you did on the previous course, so being efficient matters for your entire playthrough. A complete run will take about 5 minutes, but mastering each course will take time to learn. You can give your marble a boost by pressing the A button. This increases your marble's momentum so you can charge past enemies and obstacles, or even catch air on a few of the levels that require it. You can also change the way the game is played. You can choose either 90 degrees or 45 degrees. I personally prefer 90 degrees, it feels most natural on the isometric layout, but maybe try both if you're having trouble. With a 90 degree setup, the buttons are orthogonal in that up is up, right is right, etc. And to go diagonal, you press 2 buttons at a time. With 45 degrees, imagine the controller being tilted slightly to where up is now up and left on the D-pad, and right is now up and right. It's kind of confusing, but one will feel more natural to you. The game is certainly enjoyable for single player, though don't be surprised if your thumb locks up from all the cramping. 2 players can play at the same time, and this is likely where the game earns its madness moniker. You can sabotage each other, bounce off each other, and even being too much faster than your opponent is bad because if you get too far ahead too quickly, your marble will be lost. It's a tough balance between you and your opponent, but a fun time nonetheless. The game is definitely well made and mirrors the original well, but very light in overall playability. After about 30 minutes, you'll either have beaten it, or become frustrated from the tedium, or maybe you had a good run spoiled by a relentless and unpredictable obstacle that made you want to abandon the game forever. Either way, if you're looking for a light and fun experience to test your skills on, this is for you. If you're looking for a reason to start a fight with your best friend, this is for you on 2-player mode. If you're looking for something a little more involved, you could probably skip Marble Madness. And I have to mention the soundtrack here. It's a whopping 8 minutes total, but it's all so good. As I said, Marble Madness was ported to several different platforms, but the NES version holds up well compared to the arcade original. The original looked a little better, animated a little smoother, and was operated with a trackball, but the levels are mostly the same, and the music is all here, though I prefer the 8-bit renditions the best. There was going to be a sequel to Marble Madness called Marble Man that was planned for release in 1991, but Mark Cerny was not involved. They tested a few prototypes of it at some point and found that people no longer preferred trackballs, and they felt the game couldn't compete with the Street Fighter 2 and beat 'em up craze of the time. Well, that does it for Marble Madness on the NES. Hold on to your marbles, and thanks for watching.